Factorizing grouping. Now, grouping is a type of factorizing that's actually just a fancy taking out the highest common factor problem. And what I usually do is I start with a question that has, say for instance, 4 terms or 6 terms. Usually it will have 4 terms. And then if I look at this no, it's not an equation, at this expression, you can see there's a, but there's no a that I can take out. There's a b, a b, a b, but there's no b. And you can go and evaluate this mathematical sentence, and you see there's no highest common factor that I can take out throughout. And I definitely can't use any of the other mathematical factorization methods that I've learned. So then what I do is I group the expression into 2 groups where I can take out a common factor and I can take out a common factor. So in this a squared b minus ab squared, I can take out ab as a common factor, and then I'm left in these 2 terms with a minus b. And then in these 2 terms I can take out ay, no xy. I can take out xy as a common factor. And then I'm left with a and b, so a minus b in the brackets. And usually these brackets will be the same or possible to manipulate them so that they are the same. So if the brackets are the same, I can now also take that out as a common factor. So if I take a minus b out as a common factor, I'm left with ab plus xy. Now if you struggle to see taking out a bracket and the rest is left as a common factor, it might be a good idea to replace this bracket with another letter like a big X or a big A. Say for instance this, I rewrite this as AB, and that bracket is X, plus XY, and that bracket is X. Or a, and then if I take out this x as a common factor, I'm left with ab plus xy. Can you see how this corresponds with that, where this is my x value, and then I'm left with the x value and that bracket, and this is just an easier way of looking at it if you still struggle to see what happened exactly when I take out a whole bracket. And you're more than welcome to replace a bracket that you see is a common factor with a letter like that. Just write next to it, let x be equal to a minus b, and then you can replace the x, and you can replace, at the end you can replace the x again with the bracket. So let's look at another example. So I have, for instance, 2ab plus 4a squared b minus 5a minus 10a squared. Now again, well, I can actually take out a first. Can you see there's a common factor a throughout? So let's just do that. I first take out the a, leaving me with 2b plus 4ab minus 5 minus 10a. I just took out 1a because I always take out a highest common factor first. But this bracket I can factorize now even further by grouping it. And in this first group, I'm just going to, not to get confused with these brackets, I'm just going to place these brackets as big ones there. And then if I take out, I can take out 2b as a common factor here. Then I'm left with 1 plus 2a. And I can take out minus 5 as a common factor here. Now if I take out the minus 5, be careful I don't have nothing left. I have 1 left, because 1 times minus 5 gives me that again. And then if I take out the minus, be careful about... be careful for this as well. If I take out the minus, I'm going to change this negative to a plus, and then if I divide 10a by 5, it becomes 2a. Oh, now I can see again I have 1 plus 2a, which is a common factor, so I'm going to leave that a and the big brackets first, and then inside the brackets I'm going to take out 1 plus 2a as a common factor. You can think of that as a big X, and if I take out the big X, I'm left with 2b minus 5. And now I can just lose the big brackets so that I have, because they don't serve a purpose really anymore, so that I have this product, and then I'm finished. So you see that grouping is really merely just a type of taking out the highest common factor that I just do in little steps. It's not really anything new actually. So let's look at another example, and hopefully the examples helps you to see how to treat these things and how to think about them. Sometimes if you try grouping and it doesn't work, something you might do is just shift the terms around. You can do that. But in most cases they will put them together that in a way so that you can just group them. But if you see I can't take out a highest common factor here, and I can't take out a highest common factor here, but I can take out a highest common factor in the middle two terms, and I can take out a highest common factor in the outside terms, then group the two outside terms together and the two inside terms together. You can do something like that, like shuffle them around a little bit until you can take out a highest common factor. So here in the first group, I'm taking out 5x to the power of 5y squared, and I'm left with 3y to the power of 5 minus x to the power of 2. And then here I can take out 2 actually, and I'm left with x squared minus 3y to the power of 5. Now look at what happens here. These brackets have something similar, but they're not in the same order. Can you see here I have 3y to the power of 5 minus x squared, and here I have x squared minus 3y to the power of 5. Now if it's a plus, it's not a problem, then I can just swap them around. But if it's a minus, I just have to consider this. If it's a plus, you know that 1 plus 2 and 2 plus 1 is the same thing, or 3 plus 5 and 5 plus 3 is the same thing. So if it's a plus in the brackets, and they're not in the correct order, you can just swap them around. But if it's a negative, quickly have a look at this. You know that 7 minus 5 is equal to 2, and then if I swap these around, what happens? 5 minus 7 is equal to negative 2. If I can just use another example, it will always work like this. But say for instance 13 minus 4 is equal to 9, then 4 minus 13, if I swap them around, gives me negative 9. And whenever I swap two numbers around a minus sign, what will happen is I will get the same answer, but the signs will be different. It will always work like this. You can test a few more just to get the hang of it if you still don't believe me. But I can swap these two signs around to make them 3y to the power of 5 minus x squared. But then I must just change this sign. So I will have different signs. So I change the sign before the number. And then this looks like this. And now can you see I've changed my brackets so that they are the same number, and now I can take this bracket out. If you do still struggle, you can do this. Make this bracket A. a is equal to 3y to the power of 5 minus x squared is this bracket. I'm just going to shift the board a little bit so that you can see that, right? And then I have, can you see 5x squared y squared a minus 2a, and I can take out a as a common factor, leaving me with 5x squared y squared minus 2, and just replace the a again with what it was. It's 3y to the power of 5 minus x squared, and then this bracket. Alright, so this is how you use the A or the K method if you still struggle to take out the bracket, or if it's a very confusing lot of terms. But hopefully if you do this a few times, you'll get the hang of it and you won't need to put in the A anymore. Okay, this is a nice problem that I want to finish off with. 3x squared minus 27 plus 2y squared minus 18, where I use a bit of combination. Can you see that? Well, actually you can try to add these minus 27 and minus 18 with one another, but then you have a 3x squared plus 2y squared, which you can do nothing with, and a number which you can also do nothing with. So sorry. So it might be a better idea to do grouping here. And in the first one, I can take out 3 as a common factor, leaving me with x squared minus 9. And in the second one, I can take out 2 as a common factor, leaving me with y squared minus 9. And then this becomes, can you see, this is difference of squares. So this becomes x minus 3, x plus 3. And it would have been great if this was also in terms of x, but let's just treat it like this. This becomes y minus 3, y plus 3. And if this was now a x minus 3, x plus 3, x minus 3, x plus 3, you would have been able to go and take that out as a common factor, and then left with 3 plus 2 in the brackets. But since these are different terms and there's no common factor here anymore, you can't really do anything further, and then you are done. Even though you still don't have a product, you have two separate products. The point of factorizing is actually to write your expression in as a product, but now I have two separate